Am I the asshole for refusing to fire my new administrative assistant because my wife feels insecure? Around 2 months ago, I 52M finally bit the bullet and spent some of my lab budget to bring on board an administrative assistant. It's been wonderful. As I got older, I received more administrative responsibilities, and I never realized how much of my day was spent scheduling, answering emails, and coordinating events. My new hire has done a fantastic job getting those tasks off my plate. She is a 22-year-old recent college graduate, which I am only mentioning because it becomes relevant. About 2 weeks ago, we had a bi-monthly lab lunch. We took a picture, captioned it, welcoming, our new administrative staff member to the team, and posted it to our lab Instagram. Apparently, this led to all my wife's friends, including my SIL, seeing the picture. They proceeded to give my wife unsolicited advice about how this was a sign I'm considering cheating on her, which I have never done and will never do. They argued that she should ask me to fire my new hire to test my integrity. I refused because that's fucking ridiculous and likely illegal. Now, my wife's friends are convinced I'm some predatory scumbag, and my wife is angry that I, quote, don't respect her enough to stop people from thinking I'm throwing her away. This might be where I'm an asshole. I responded that I think the real problem is that she's friends with a bunch of crazy divorcees, which I initially regretted saying because my SIL's marriage had fallen apart last year. However, as my sympathy has waned, I'm starting to double down on as an accurate characterization of those morons. I'm making this post because I think this whole situation is absolutely absurd, and, for the first time in our marriage, I can't see how her side is reasonable in any way. I literally get to spend more time with my wife, now that I don't spend an hour answering emails before bed every night. I don't see how this is a me problem or even an us problem at this point. I don't think I have done anything even slightly inappropriate, and this is entirely her problem. Maybe I'm completely off base, but I need a third-part perspective. Not the asshole. Don't respect her enough to stop people from thinking I'm throwing her away. She doesn't respect you enough to stop people from thinking you're throwing her away. Not the asshole. If you are in the US, firing a secretary based on her looks is going to get you sued. It's called sexual discrimination. Tell your wife that you refuse to base your hiring decisions on her insecurities. If she doesn't trust you, then your relationship is already on the rocks, especially since you are already spending more time with your wife since hiring this person. Not the asshole. But I think you should consider having an honest discussion with your wife about your marriage. She's clearly struggling with something and this is how it's coming out, albeit at the encouragement of her weird friends. I don't think you've done anything wrong and your wife is definitely in the wrong, but you should try to find out what's going on. I think this behavior from your wife is a sign that you guys need therapy. Even if your marriage is perfect, you're entering a different stage of your lives and have likely been together for a while. As her peers' marriages fall apart, she may be feeling insecure or questioning the strength of yours. All things to discuss in therapy. And no, you should not fire your assistant. That would be unethical. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Maybe ask your wife how she would have felt about losing her job at 22 because the person who hired her had a significant other with overstepping friends. But don't do it in an adversarial way, and make it real. Sweets, remember when you got that job at XYZ Co? What if the person who hired you suddenly fired you for nothing you did wrong at all? Edit a word. Not the asshole and get some couples therapy. Knowing why she feels that you may be cheating would really benefit you. She could be thinking, he hired a pretty young lady, does that mean I'm not pretty enough for him now? Firing the new assistant cause your wife is insecure can also look bad on you, whether someone cries discrimination or the fact it's just rude to fire someone who isn't actually causing a problem in the workplace. Not the asshole. You can't fire someone and potentially fuck up their career because your wife is insecure and jealous. Maybe it's not illegal where you are, but it should be. It is incredibly offensive to your employee, that because your wife thinks you might have an affair she loses her job, and a horrible insult to her professionalism. I presume you hired the best person for the job, but even if you didn't, that's a problem for the company you work for and is still nothing to do with your wife. Not the asshole. Firing a woman to appease your wife's insecurity would require a serious lack of integrity. They really want to make another living human being beginning her career unemployed and during a pandemic? To put this black mark on her resume at the beginning of building her career and reputation? To label her a sexual predator? Your wife, Sil, and her friends lack integrity, humanity, and empathy. They all, including your wife, have an extremely low opinion of you to think the mere presence of this woman will result in the two of you having sex. Your wife needs her own therapy and you both need couples therapy. She needs to stop listening to these people whispering these unfounded accusations in her ear. Not the asshole. This toxic attitude has seriously derailed women's careers. It's so sad another woman is perpetuating it. Men and women are allowed to be friends. Anyone who says otherwise is either a potential cheater or paranoid. Not the asshole. Your wife and her friends don't get to make you fire someone who did absolutely nothing. Your wife's friends shouldn't be telling you to fire her, you should be telling your wife to fire her friends. Not the asshole. You're in the right for not firing an administrative assistant because she's attractive, or rather, attractive enough to cause your wife to be insecure. She's an asshole here for insisting on firing someone to test your integrity. That said, your way of going about it by insulting her friends is not going to sway her. You need to be supportive instead of defensive. The fact that she's doing this shows there's something she's worried about and you should probably talk with her about it. Does your wife realize what a misogynist she is being? Fire that girl because I don't like how she looks, she should be ashamed. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. This is your wife's problem, not yours. I presume you hire the best person for the job and to fire her, if legal, would reduce the capacity of your department and would probably destroy morale as well. Stick to your guns. Not the asshole. My mom divorced my dad over a similar issue when they were a similar age to you. He wasn't the boss of the woman in question though, just a coworker, and 24 years old. Ultimately my mom convinced herself that my dad was cheating and she blew up their marriage of 26 years because my dad refused to leave the job until he had another job lined up. He literally agreed to leave because of my mom's issues, he just needed another source of income first. There was never any evidence of anything inappropriate, the girl had a boyfriend her own age the whole time as well. I hope your wife comes to her senses. My mom never did. Tread carefully. Not the asshole, but wow, your wife is. We are in the middle of a pandemic and she wants someone to lose their job so that she can prove something to her friends. She sounds super self-centered to want to do that to another person. Not the asshole, but as a woman I am offended too. These adult women want to have a young professional woman fired because they are insecure. They assume she'd even be interested in you. Zero offense here, I'm sure you're George Clooney in a lab coat, but at 22, I would have considered you grandpa age. I would have considered 30 old. And they assume that, what, any 22-year-old who walks by is going to cause you to cheat. Tell them joke's on you ladies, it's the 45-year-old professor across the hall that wets my whistle. Sexist, sexist, sexist and Sue shitty. It's all girl power until someone's prettier or younger, huh? Boo to your wife. They do sound like crazy divorcees. Not the asshole, she needs to work on her own insecurities. Not the asshole. Your wife needs to find friends that don't encourage her crazy jealousy. Not the asshole. It's hard enough being a woman in STEM as it is, let alone when this sexist bullshit comes into play. Good on you for standing your ground and keeping the hire whom was suitably appropriately credentialed for the job instead of looking at gender or age. Absolutely f***ing good goddamn not the asshole. As a young woman in the hard sciences, I applaud your handling of the sexism and bias of your wife and her toxic clique. I have fought and clawed against the harassment, mistreatment, and bias thrown at me in the scientific and academic fields. The only way to make these places better is for the people in power to reject the misogyny with everything they have. Thank you for doing your part. Could you have responded in a more level-headed way to your wife? Sure. But she knows it's ridiculous. She probably knows it's illegal. But she's not being fueled by logic, she's being fueled by insecurity. That's what you need to discuss with your wife. Not the asshole. Instead of trusting you, your wife is listening to a bunch of people who have no evidence to support the shit they're saying. I'd say couples counseling is in order. Firing a young woman who is perfectly nice and good at her job because of someone else's insecurities would be an asshole move. And wrongful termination. The fact that you now spend more time with your wife because your assistant is able to take over some of the workload should indicate to her that she shouldn't be worried. A relationship is between two people, not two people in a biased peanut gallery. You need to communicate to her that this is freeing up extra time to spend more time with her and at home, being present, rather than on your phone, and back up what you say with action. Regardless of whether or not her insecurities are based in reality, they are still her feelings, and y'all need to communicate to understand the other's perspective and come to a compromise, understanding. Possibly look into therapy if it's an option. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. 1. If you have to test your partner's integrity or trust, you let relationship is already over. 2. Firing someone without good cause, and especially because your wife is insecure, is likely illegal. 3. Even if it isn't illegal, it's definitely a shitty thing to do. 4. Your wife's friends need to stay in their own lane, and mind their own business. Not the asshole. Ask your wife how she would feel if she got a job she was good at but then got fired simply because the wife of her boss was insecure. Not the asshole. And good luck trying to fire someone with no cause. Your wife is overreacting. I can understand being upset for calling her friends crazy divorcees. That could definitely make her feel like you're invalidating her concerns, but she has no right to demand you fire your employee. Not the asshole. Do they expect you to only hire men? This poor woman's done nothing wrong other than be female and young. Not the asshole. Oh sweet Jesus, this, your wife, yikes on bikes. Don't accept the premise of this absurd question. Not even to say no to it. It's nonsense. Treat it as such. I have a sense that you are projecting your things make sense attitude onto this. I refused because that's fucking ridiculous and likely illegal. Bullseye. Your wife has jealous friends. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I had some friends who did something similar. I stood with my husband and shot my friends' crazy opinions down. Not the asshole. As a 24 female admin, my question to your wife would be why she thinks the world operates like an episode of Mad Men. Not the asshole. Dude. Flip it. How dare you women suggest that a female should lose her job, which she is doing well, because she could be considered a sexual object. Also, how dare her friends question your loyalty, and how dare your wife side with them over you when you've been nothing but faithful. There is a whole lot of what the fuck going on here. Not the asshole. They're trying to make you out to be a cheater because you hired a woman and your wife is listening to them. Not the asshole. Talk to your wife. Her friends are being toxic, but it seems she's listening to them. Not the asshole. If I may say so, your wife's friends spend too much time on this subreddit. Not the asshole. If your wife can be influenced into thinking you're about to cheat on her with an employee just because her friends told her to, then I think there may be a bigger problem here. Ask her to go to couples counseling with you. Her insecurities need to be dealt with before they get worse, and they will get worse. Not the asshole. My aunt, a secretary, moved for her boss' job and the wife suddenly got jealous and my aunt was fired. So here she is in a new city with no job, no friends yet, etc., 2 kids to support solo, and had to find new work. The whole thing was awful, and I still think that wife is an insecure bee. Not the asshole. Does she not realize her friends are probably just trying to make her feel like you're cheating because they are jealous she has a secure marriage and they don't? Not the asshole. She wants you to commit an illegal act to prove that you're not cheating. Clearly, she doesn't trust you and would rather take advice from people whose relationships haven't worked out because they are obviously experts on relationships, than trust you. This is a red flag, but I'm not going to dig too deep here. Not the asshole. You ethically and legally probably can't fire someone because your wife's friends are saying catty things. Not the asshole, but she is upset for a reason. The new lab tech has just shown a spotlight on it. Ask her what is really going on. Has something happened to make her think you don't fancy her? Have you said something that makes her worry about your relationship? Also, what could we do together with the extra hour I have each evening? You could offer to cook whilst she has a bath, you could grow vegetables together, etc., etc. Don't be stubborn or neither of you will win. Not the asshole. Your wife and her friends are the reason women are called catty. This is an absurd request based in her insecurities. She needs to see a professional about this if she is really demanding that you fire someone perfectly qualified based on her sex and looks, which is illegal. Not the asshole. Your wife has to realize on some level how ridiculous requesting you fire this person is. You'd be putting your own career at risk if you fired her for no other reason than that she is a young attractive woman. That said, it sounds like your wife is having some feelings of insecurity. Is there anything you can think of to do for her that might help? Sometimes we all need a little extra reassurance. If we're talking respect here, your wife doesn't seem to respect you or your marriage. Your wife appears to lend more weight to the unwanted and plainly malicious advice of her friend group. Not the asshole. Not the asshole but MAAAAAYBE. Don't call her friends crazy. It sounds like traumatized divorcees are more accurate. Not only is your wife an asshole, but she's kind of sexist against her own gender. The assistant's only crime is being young and pretty, and yet your wife instantly thinks she should lose her job because she might tempt you into cheating. If your wife distrusts you that much, your marriage was having problems long before that girl came into the picture. If talking to her gets you nowhere, consider couples therapy, because this issue isn't going to go away. I mean, how else are you gonna hire someone for barely affordable living wages to work for you? It can only be a recent college grad. Yes, I know the pay rate, and yes, I did that job. You can get away with a full-time assistant for 1/2 of their worth in industry. Feel good. Exploit the youth on university pay scales. Your wife is crazy, but universities are the real asshole. It's shit like this that makes things harder for women in the workplace. You can bet dollars to donuts that the OP's next assistant will be male, unless he ends up divorced first. Not the asshole. I am a marriage counselor. I would see this as a distress signal from your wife. She is clearly insecure. Is this from her family of origin, past relationships, something you've done? I would set a firm boundary that you are not about to fire someone just because she's attractive, and instead redirect both of you to some therapy.